Hello, my name is Jessica Heneisen and I'm going to teach you about cross-stitching. What is cross-stitching? Cross-stitching in embroidery is the art of using a needle and thread on different fabrics or other objects to create images, lettering, and other designs. That beautiful pillow that your grandmother made by hand with the flowers on it, that is what is known as cross-stitching or embroidery. This is an older way of doing things, and we have machines that can do this much faster and easier nowadays. It is still an important and even fun task to learn. Cross-stitching is not just a pastime for women on the prairie. It is a fun and useful skill that men and women alike should learn and know how to do and know how it came about. When was cross-stitching invented and why? According to the history of cross-stitch on juliexstitch.com, cross-stitch and needlework can be found in the earliest history as far back as 6th century BC. Needlework has been around as long as there has been cloth to work on it. Pieces of embroidery and needlework have been found in places such as Egypt on old Egyptian kings' clothes, and preserved in other tombs and medieval churches. The cross-stitches were started to show how rich and beautiful women's clothes were because of the work put into them and the details they show, as well as how to show the love for the dead and the significance of the royalty who wore it. Are cross-stitching and embroidery the same thing? The difference between cross-stitch, embroidery, and needlepoint is answered because the term embroidery actually encompasses several different fabric crafts. In fact, both the needlepoint and cross-stitch are types of embroidery. Its basic definition is the decorating of fabric and other materials by stitching designs onto it. This can be done with thread, yarn, or ribbon. What are the materials? There is the cloths, which the most practiced cloth used is the Aida white cloth. There is many different colors, but Aida is the best product to use. There is also the needles and the floss. The needles are very important because they can come in different sizes for the different types of cloth used. Cloth can come in the 14, 18, 11, 22, and several other counts. And you have to make sure that your needle is the correct one because of the size of the hole that is on the fabric. The floss is also very important. It can come in a thicker version or a thinner one. And with the floss, it is in several different strands that look like one solid strand, but they pull apart like this in order to use only a certain amount of threads per stitch. Most stitches use 2 threads, but whenever doing small details on buildings and images, you use 1 thread. The best type of thread is the DMC floss. Other flosses can be used, but the DMC is what is used in most instruction manuals and other types of books. There is also the scissors that you need to use in order to cut the thread. It is important that you only use these scissors for the thread. Otherwise, they will dull and fray the threads even further than what you will not need them to be. It is important to keep them sharp and within a box or carrying case so that way they don't get damaged. It is also important to have other materials such as a bobbin, which is somewhere that you can hold loose threads so that way they don't get lost or tangled. And then a carrying case in which to keep all of your threads, scissors, and other necessary things. How to cross stitch. To start, one must first see how many strands are needed for the stitches. As I said earlier, it is mainly 2 threads. Often there is 1 thread. You first learn whether or not you need the 2 strands, 1 strand, or any other varying amount. Once you know this, you then thread your needle. You can use a threader or do this by hand. It's usually easier to use a threader. I do not have one with me today. Then it is important that once you have threaded your needle and you are prepared to use your Aida cloth in order to get ready, You also need to put a box grid that is on both your cloth and on the image that you're going to use, so that way you have the correct amount of stitches. Otherwise, your image could be lopsided or have too many stitches on it, and it will be longer or wider on one side rather than the other. Once you have done the gridding and you start then choose where you would like to begin stitching. Again, this is up to you, but most people start either at the bottom or the top, because once you start in the middle and you mess up, it's harder to start again. I myself have started one here to show you, and I started at the bottom and started working my way up. This is eventually going to be a house, but since the image showed that there was many different colors that started in different ways, I had to go up as well as side to side, but still staying within my gridded marks and counting the grid numbers that I needed. Once you've threaded your needle, gridded your Aida cloth, and prepared all of the necessary items that you need in order to cross stitch, you may then start at the back of your cloth and pull it through at one point that you are going to start with. Once you pull it through, you will go diagonal in the same square that you began in. Then you'll pull it through to the back, go to the next line just below the one that you've been in, as to stay in the same square. Look to the front and make sure you are in the same square, and then cross in the other diagonal direction. As you do this, you'll go over one square each time. That way, whenever you're doing your nice neat crosses, on the back it'll look like nice straight lines rather than a big jumbled mess. This is an important task to know because it can lead you into other artistic crafts with thread work and other things, such as stitching on that loose button that came off of your favorite shirt or jacket, or even fixing old clothes. That way they stay around longer and make it easier and cheaper to go about your day. Cross stitching is a very fun pastime. Many women and even some men used to do it. It's a time of fixing clothing back in the old days when there was no such thing as a Samsung or an Apple Watch. So the only fun thing to do was to go outside or learn to sew or cross stitch. Cross stitching is very fun and can be a good way to relax after a hard day, and can be a great hobby. Cross stitching is not just a pastime for women on the prairie. It is a fun and useful skill that men and women alike should learn and know how to do. Thank you for your time, and I hope you enjoy cross stitching. Go stop the video. Stop the video, dude.